And that is why, as President, I will lead a global effort to secure all nuclear weapons and material at vulnerable sites within 4 years. This is something that we can do. We have to stop shortchanging it. While we work to secure existing stockpiles, we should also negotiate a verifiable global ban on the production of new nuclear weapons material. I also won't hesitate to use the power of American diplomacy to stop countries from obtaining these weapons or sponsoring terrorism. The lesson of the Bush years is that not talking does not work. Go down the list of countries we've ignored and see how successful that strategy has been. We haven't talked to Iran, and they continue to build their nuclear program. We haven't talked to Syria, and they continue to support terror. We tried not talking to North Korea, and they now have enough material for 6 to 8 more nuclear weapons. It's time to turn the page on the diplomacy of tough talk and no action. It's time to turn the page on Washington's conventional wisdom that agreement must be reached before you meet, that talking to other countries is some kind of reward, and that presidents can only meet with people who will tell them what they want to hear. President Kennedy said it best, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." Only by knowing your adversary can you defeat them or drive wedges between them. As president, I will work with our friends and our allies, but I won't outsource our diplomacy to Tehran, to the Europeans, or our diplomacy in Pyongyang to the Chinese. I will do the careful preparation that's needed and let these countries know where I stand. They will no longer have the excuse of American intransigence, although they will have our terms: no support for terror and no nuclear weapons. But America must be more than taking out terrorists and locking up weapons, or else new terrorists will rise up and take the place of everyone we capture or kill. That's why the third step in my strategy will be drying up the rising well of support for extremism. When you travel to the world's trouble spots as a U.S. Senator, much of what you see is from helicopters. So you look out with the buzz of the rotor in your ear, maybe a door gunner nearby, and you see the refugee camps in Darfur, the blood near Djibouti, the flood near Djibouti, the bombed out blocks in Baghdad. You see the thousands of desperate faces, but you only see them from a distance. Al-Qaeda's new recruits come from Africa and Asia, the Middle East and Europe. Many come from disaffected communities and disconnected corners of our interconnected world. And it makes you stop and wonder, when those faces look up at an American helicopter, do they feel hope or do they feel hate? We know where extremists thrive, in conflict zones that are incubators of resentment and anarchy, in weak states that cannot control their borders or territories or meet the basic needs of their people. From Africa to Central Asia to the Pacific Rim, nearly 60 countries stand on the brink of conflict or collapse. The extremists encourage the exploitation of these hopeless places with their hate-filled websites. And we know what the extremists say about us. America is just an occupying army in Muslim lands, the shadow of a shrouded figure standing on a box at Abu Ghraib, the power behind the throne of a repressive leader. They say we are at war with Islam. That's the whispered line of the extremist who has nothing to offer in this battle of ideas but blame. Blame America, blame progress, blame Jews. And often he offers something along with the hate, a sense of empowerment, maybe an education at a madrasa, some charity for your family, some basic services in the neighborhood, and then a mission and a gun. We know we are not who they say we are. America is at war with the terrorists who killed people on our soil. We're not at war with Islam. America is a compassionate nation that wants a better future for all people. The vast majority of the world's 1.3 billion Muslims have no use for bin Laden or his bankrupt ideas. But too often since 9/11, the extremists have defined us, not the other way around. When I am president, that will change. We will author our own story. We do need to stand for democracy, and I will. But democracy is more than a ballot box. America must show, through deeds as well as words, that we stand with those who seek a better life. That child looking up at the helicopter must see America and feel hope. As president, I will make it a focus of my foreign policy to roll back the tide of hopelessness that gives rise to hate. Freedom must mean freedom from fear, not freedom of anarchy. I will never shrug my shoulders and say, as Secretary Rumsfeld did, freedom is untidy. I will focus our support on helping nations build independent judicial systems, honest police forces, and financial systems that are transparent and accountable. Freedom also means freedom from want, not freedom lost to an empty stomach. So I'll make poverty reduction a key part of helping other nations reduce chaos and anarchy. I will double our investments to meet these challenges to $50 billion by 2012. And I will support a $2 billion global education fund to counter the radical madrasas, often funded by money from within Saudi Arabia, that have filled young minds with messages of hate. We must work for a world where every child, everywhere, is taught to build and not to destroy. And as we lead, we will ask for more from our friends in Europe and Asia as well. More support for our diplomacy, more support for multilateral peacekeeping, and more support to rebuild societies ravaged by conflict. I will also launch a program of public diplomacy that is coordinated across my administration. Not a small group of political officials in the State Department explaining a misguided war. We will open America houses in cities across the Islamic world with the internet, libraries, English lessons, stories of America's Muslims and the strength they add to our country, and vocational programs. Through a new America's Voice Corps, we'll recruit, train, and send out into the field talented young Americans who can speak with and listen to the people who today hear about us only from our enemies.